How does a public servant, someone on a capped government salary, go from being buried in student loan debt to sitting on an empire potentially worth $30 million?
And how does it happen in just a couple of years?
Exactly. It sounds impossible, but for the people auditing the books in Washington right now, it's looking less like a magic trick and a lot more like a crime scene.
It creates a situation where the math just doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And in my experience, when the math in Congress doesn't add up, it usually means the American taxpayer is the one getting shortchanged.
That's it. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Saturday, January 17th, 2026, and we have some breaking news that, frankly, demands we stop and look at the money trail.
Uh-huh.
Representative Ilhan Omar from Minnesota is in the hot seat today. House Oversight Chairman James Comer has just vowed to get answers about her family's wealth, which he says has skyrocketed.
And skyrocketed is really the only word for it. We're looking at this core accusation that Omar and her husband, Tim Mynett, went from, almost no assets and a lot of debt to a net worth of up to $30 million.
In 24 months.
In about 24 months.
2 years.
Yeah.
Most people can't pay off a car loan in 2 years, let alone build a fortune like that while working for the government. And the context here is just, it's brutal.
It is, because at the exact same time, there's a federal investigation into a $1 billion fraud scandal happening in her own state.
The feeding our future case.
Exactly. A huge scandal involving taxpayer money that was meant to feed hungry kids. And now investigators are, connecting dots between politicians and the people behind the fraud.
So that's what we're looking at today. A system that seems to let politicians get rich while their constituents get fleeced. And we're going to look at the new push in Congress to maybe finally stop it.
Right.
So let's start with this impossible math. Where is this $30 million supposed to have come from?
Okay, so to see why the Oversight Committee is so suspicious, you have to look at the financial disclosures, the ones filed in 2024.
These are the official documents.
Official government documents. And in them, we see 2 assets held by Omar's husband that, they raise every single red flag in the book. First, a winery called East Key CRU LLC, valued between $1 and $5 million.
A winery? Okay. That's a nice business, but that doesn't get you to $30 million.
No. But then there's Rose Lake Capital. This is listed as a venture capital firm, and it's valued between $5 and $25 million.
Okay, so you add the high ends of those together, and there's your $30 million. That's the number. But just a few years ago, public records, everything from credit reports to Reddit threads digging into their finances, they showed Omar and her husband had a negative net worth.
Right. They had student loans, credit card debt. They were not wealthy people by any stretch.
And that's what makes this so jarring. Representative Comer, who's leading this, he put it very bluntly. He just said, it's not possible. I'm a money guy.
Saying, in the real world of business, you don't go from 0 to 30 million in 2 years unless something very, very strange is going on.
It just defies financial gravity. And Omar was asked about this just a few days ago on Face the Nation.
Yeah, I saw them.
She basically denied it all, claimed transparency, blamed it on, quote, weird ethics investigations.
But there's a huge problem with that denial. The Washington Examiner pointed out that she failed to disclose the specific value of her husband's shares.
What does that mean exactly? Break that down.
Well, normally, if your spouse owns part of a company, you have to report what their piece is worth. If the company's worth $10 million, but he only owns 1%, you report the 1%.
Okay.
She just listed the total value of the company. It kind of hides the ball. It makes it impossible to know how much of that cash actually belongs to her family.
It's like a shell game. You can't follow the money if you can't see it. So let's dig into this company, Rose Lake Capital. Because it sounds less like a business and more like a house of cards.
The house of cards might be generous. It was founded by Omar's husband, Tim Mynett, and a guy named Will Haler. And Haler's not a Wall Street guy. He's a former Democratic operative.
So these are political people, not investment bankers.
Right. But their website, which has now been completely scrubbed from the internet, by the way.
Of course it has.
It claimed they managed billions in assets, full of buzzwords, mergers, debt restructuring, all of it. But when investigators looked at court records from South Dakota, they found a snapshot of the company bank account.
Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be good. How much was in the war chest of this billion-dollar firm?
In late 2022, the bank account for Rose Lake Capital had $42.44.
Wait, stop. $42.
Dollars, not 42 million. $42.
I have more than that in loose change in my car. Are you serious?
And yet, their valuation in the government filing jumped from $42 to as much as $25 million in a single year.
And no SEC registration, right?
Not a thing, which is a huge red flag. If you're managing millions, let alone billions, the government wants to know about it.
It gets worse, though. They listed these big names as advisors to look legitimate, people like former Senator Max Baucus.
And when the news broke, these guys fled. Baucus basically said, I had one phone call with him about a storage unit project, and that's it. He said it sounded fishy.
So they were just using his name to puff up a company that had less money than a kid's lemonade stand.
Exactly. They were selling air. But this is where it gets darker, because it all connects back to that Minnesota fraud scandal.
The Feeding Our Future case?
Yeah.
$1 billion in stolen taxpayer money.
The timing is just. It's parallel. The wealth explosion happens while this fraud is running rampant. And we know that some of the fraudsters, people like Salim Said and Amy Bach, they were donors to Omar's campaign. They even hosted events for her.
So the people stealing money from child food programs are rubbing elbows with the politician whose family wealth is mysteriously skyrocketing.
It just paints a picture of a closed loop.
Yeah.
And that's why the Oversight Committee is getting involved. I mean, with this much smoke, there's almost always a fire.
But we have to zoom out here, because while Omar's case is maybe the most shocking right now, she is not the only one playing this game.
Oh, absolutely not. It's systemic. If you look at online discussions, people call it the massive gravy train. And you can't talk about congressional wealth without mentioning Nancy Pelosi's legendary stock trading luck.
Right. She's the poster child for it.
She is. But the data is bipartisan. The Campaign Legal Center found that in the 119th Congress, 48% of members own individual stock. Almost half of Congress is playing the market.
And they're sitting on committees that regulate the very companies they're betting on. It's not investing, it feels like using inside information.
It is. The current law, the Stu-Chak Act.
Yeah.
It's supposed to stop this. Stop trading on congressional knowledge. But it's so weak. All it does is require disclosure. You just have to tell people you bought the stock. It doesn't actually stop you.
So it's like a referee betting on the Super Bowl. And as long as he says, hey, everyone, I bet $1 million on the Chiefs, it's legal. That doesn't stop him from making bad calls.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And it's why the public is so furious. They see a system where the rules just don't apply to the rule makers.
So with this Omar case blowing up, are we finally going to see some real changes? What's the 119th Congress doing to stop this grift?
There's actually a lot of movement. Because the public outrage is so high now, we're seeing bills that have some real teeth. One of the big ones is S. 1498.
And they named it.
They named it the Pelosi Act.
I love that. No subtlety at all.
None. It stands for Preventing Elected Leaders from Owning Securities and Investments. And it's strict. It prohibits members and their spouses from owning or trading individual stocks, period.
And it covers the spouses. That's always been the loophole. Oh, I didn't buy it. My husband did.
Yes, it closes that loophole. Then there's H.R. 1908, the End Congressional Stock Trading Act. That one requires divestment.
And you have to sell it all off.
You get elected, you sell. You have to choose, serve the public or play the market. Can't do both.
And what about that other one, the one about foreign adversaries?
Yeah, H.R. 3635, it stops members from investing in things that benefit China, Iran, Russia. It's honestly insane that this wasn't already illegal, but this bill fixes it.
It's madness to think a congressman could be investing in Chinese tech while sitting on a national security committee. Now, I've heard talk about blind trusts. Is that a real solution?
That's the big debate. Some bills allow them. The idea is you give your money to a trustee, and you supposedly don't know what they're buying or selling.
But if I put $1 million of Apple stock into a trust, I still know I put Apple stock in there.
Exactly. And that's why the tougher bills, like the Pelosi Act, say no to blind trusts. They argue you're not truly blind. So the stricter approach is sell it all. Put your money in a mutual fund or T-bills, something generic.
That makes sense. Your focus should be on your constituents, not your Tesla shares. So what are the penalties now? Because the old fines were a joke, like a $200 speeding ticket.
The new proposals are much harsher. They're moving towards something called disgorgement.
Disgorgement. Okay, that sounds painful. What is it?
It means the government takes all the profit you made from the illegal trade. You make $100 grand on a shady stock deal. You don't just pay a small fine. You lose the whole $100 grand.
Ah, now that's a deterrent.
That's a real deterrent. Plus, they're talking about a public wall of shame, publishing the names of violators online. No more hiding.
This really feels like a turning point. You have this massive, unbelievable scandal with Representative Omar, $1 billion fraud case in her district, and a public that is just fed up.
It's a convergence. The Omar case makes an abstract problem very real and very shocking. When you see $42 turn into millions, you realize the system is broken.
And the investigations now, under this new leadership, seem to have more teeth. It's not just ethics referrals that go into a filing cabinet.
No, we're hearing about subpoenas. The FBI is looking at these networks. James Comer is saying, show me the bank statements.
And the legislative tools are there, the Pelosi Act, the other bills. The blueprint is ready. It just needs the political will.
And this impossible math from Minnesota might just be the catalyst that forces that will.
So we have a representative whose family wealth just exploded by millions right in the middle of a massive fraud scandal in her district, while federal agencies under the previous administration just sort of dragged their feet. It leaves us with a pretty fundamental question.
A question of loyalty.
Exactly. If politicians are allowed to treat Congress like their own private trading floor, are they voting for your best interests, or are they voting to pump up their own portfolios?
When they sign a bill, are they thinking about your family or are they thinking about their quarterly returns?
The evidence suggests that for way too long, the portfolio has come first.
Keep watching the money trails. They tell the truth, even when the politicians won't.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.